All right. Looks like we're up and functioning. Okay, so as I said, I'm not going to be doing all of the chapters. I'm going to be skipping some here and there, just for the sake of time, to make things a little more abbreviated for sure. We don't have to cover all the chapters as long as you get, again, this is online for free. You can download it. It used to be, the PDF I have, it was readily available, meaning that you didn't have to give up your name and email. I think that time may be gone. But if you're going to download it from the internet, be careful about, signing up for anything. Just give us your email and whatever other kind of information they're looking for, right? Phone number, I don't know what it is. Usually they're trying to sell you something. Sometimes it's a scam. Sometimes it's fraud. I don't know. I wouldn't trust any of those sources, but still, I mean, you can buy it online, get it, Amazon, I think Chegg, CHEGG.com, Chegg. It's a website that I use for my students. A lot of inexpensive textbooks on there. I've seen Thick Face Black Heart on there. They've got a huge database, but even Amazon, you can get it. I've seen it for as low as less than $1, right? So, yeah, I'd be careful about downloading for free and giving away email address or any other information, personal information. Anyways, so I'm skipping over The Mystery of Money. This book, again, it's kind of like when I was going over common sense economics. I use common sense economics in one of my classes, and there's another, I think Law of Success in 16 Lessons as well. There's a chapter in there that's focuses on money. Money is a tricky subject. It's really something that needs to be dealt with by an expert. I am no expert, but I know you need an expert because experts have told me. I work with experts. I do my own money management. I do some of my own investing with cryptocurrency and whatnot. So I'm a little more monetarily or investment literate than many people. Sometimes a little knowledge is dangerous, as they say, right? So I have enough knowledge to know not to be dangerous or to go into areas that are not, they're too complex or not. They don't warrant me or anyone else going into. So the money I'm going to skip, The Mystery of Money. And yeah, as I was saying, there's a chapter, even in Common Sense Economics, which is written by 4 PhDs. They know the macro terminology and explanation, but when it comes to micro personal investing, that's a different beast all in itself, right? So I don't even advise my students to read that section of the text. I said, if you want to read it, you're on your own. Part 4, section 4, but the first 3 sections are more in line with what we're talking about, as well as more in line with what the authors know, right? And that's another thing. I know I'm a bit off on a tangent, but it's all relevant eventually. As regards experts and expertise, many people think that just because they're smart in one area, that they can branch out into other areas. And this is a common problem amongst intellectuals, and there have been many books written about this. The elites that get a little too full of themselves and start believing that they can manage other complex systems. There are certain complex systems like climate, our physiology, physics, energy, matter, power, all those, even the field of computers that I was in, those are very complex fields. And believing that even that the entire field, like for instance, Einstein was a abstract physicist and a theoretical physicist, I should say. But he was no expert in biology or chemistry, so he knew that, right? He also knew, he was very humble, and realized that he was limited in his knowledge, that we're all equal in our infinite ignorance, and he knew at some point somebody would come along and come along with a better theory than his relativity theory or quantum theory and so forth, right? Anyways, what it boils down to is I'm skipping 7 and 8. Okay, so here we go to the, I think we all know about work, don't we, right? The 16 noble attributes of work, the fondest of human expression. Of course, it's where we earn our living, right? Thick-Faced Blackheart is really oriented toward using these skills or skill sets knowledge in the workforce. These are not attributes. These are not elements of achievement that you just read about and use in a vacuum. I was actually, and this comes in line with what Thick-Faced Blackheart is about anyways, I was actually applying these before I even knew about Thick-Faced Blackheart. And then I read Thick-Faced Blackheart, and 80–90% of it, I'm going, yes, I'm aware of that. I've done that. I know that. And this falls in line with the theory, according to Ching-Ning Chu, the author, and the original author, Lee, Thick Black Theory, that this is not so much learned knowledge, acquired knowledge, as it is uncovered within. And it's kind of like my coaching. You know, you have a lot of potential, dormant potential within, and the only way that you can pull it out is if you challenge yourself, right? Get outside of your comfort zone. Well, that's when you grow. That's when you have to tap in, go deeper, and tap into inner strength or knowledge or talents or gifts or abilities, whatever you want to call them, ad infinitum, and pull them forth and start to use them and start to develop them and strengthen them. I was talking to a class of students the other day. We'll be going over Thick-Faced Blackheart. We're just supposed to start today, but I wasn't able to go in. But we'll start on Thick-Faced Blackheart next week. And again, I've gone over this stuff dozens of times. Personally, I've gone over it many times. I've read it through several times, as one should do when an individual is attempting to learn something. You don't just read it once, you're done. You read it. Then if you really want to know it, you write about it. So I started writing about many of these chapters. As I said, I'm not a fan of a few, or find a few useful. But regardless, it's 80–90% great. And most people will find 80–90% of it very applicable and useful, applicable to their lives and useful in their lives. Okay. So this attribute of work is it's essential. This is, it's it says chapter 5. I think we're down to I think it was chapter 9. There's some editing issues in here, of course. I think we're down to chapter 9 or 10, somewhere around there. But you're really using these concepts or these elements of achievement in the outside world. You could probably use them in your house, in your home, your community, sure, fine, your local rec, if you're contributing your time to wherever, the town hall or church or whatever, you could certainly use these skills and abilities in those arenas, but those are more relaxed. Those are more leisurely pursuits, I guess you could say, as opposed to work, where work is, where the hustle occurs. It's where the pressure is on. It's where one has to perform, do well, or you're gone, right? I've been doing my job for 22 years as a teacher, as a coach, maybe about half that time. And I've had chairs and deans say that they want to read my books. They want to come into my class. You're smarter than me, Jeff. You just do what you want, right? So this is, all this stuff is what I'm talking about. All of this stuff collectively, this book and all the other books and all the other things that I'm talking about, higher education and so forth. and even prepping yourself for higher education in the workforce. All of it comes together. And what you're really trying to do is set yourself up for success, higher achievement, greater achievement, potential for greater achievement, greater happiness, fulfillment, success, stability. Even if there are down times, you're going to be so good at what you do, and other intangibles are so much there because of this stuff you've read and all you know and learn, right? That letting you go is not an option, really. Cindy, Bob, you guys are just amazing. I know we're letting people go, and you haven't been here, you're not high in the seniority list, but I really don't want to let you guys go. So we're going to be holding on to you and your positions, or we got to get rid of your position. We're going to hold on to you and move you to something else, right? So this has happened to me, right? So this stuff works. And I was just telling my students and my clients the other day, similar things, this stuff works, this works, do this doesn't work, don't do that. How do you know it works? Well, there's experience. You find people who know what they're talking about. You try things, and just through trial and error and the hard knocks of life and getting batted about enough times, you learn, like in a relationship, I got burned enough. One time I was on my knees in the parking lot, and this young lady from Ireland, beautiful Irish girl, she was leaving to go back home, and I was like, no, don't go. But she was young. I was a little bit older. I was 27. She was like 24 or something. Maybe I was 28. But anyways, she was not ready to settle down. She had other issues. She wanted to grow and explore and so forth. So she went back to Ireland, and I was literally on my knees in the parking lot. Please don't go, please. So after that experience, I said never again, and never again have I put myself in that situation. So anyways, so this book would not be complete without mentioning work. We predominantly use thick-faced black art either with others or with ourselves during the period when we are performing our duties, right? Work, the fondest. I like that, the fondest human expression. Now, some people may not see work as an expression or find anything fond or fondestly human about, or humane maybe even, about work, their job, the work environment, and so forth, right? I was talking to my cardiologist the other day, and he says, I asked him, you love your job? He goes, yes, I love it. I love it. It's great. It's passionate. But a lot of people don't love their jobs. And I said, true. I don't know what percentage, but there's a good number of people out there. And he felt most, but I don't think that's true. Many people do maybe not passionately love their job. It's not the thing I always dreamed about doing, but they enjoy it, at least enjoy it tremendously, find satisfaction from it, even though it's not, their dream or, the thing that they dreamed about or planned for when they were younger, but they still find satisfaction through it. So, but anyways, if you don't love your job or having a passion for it, then, well, you're at a considerable disadvantage. Me, I don't have a job. I don't have a career. I have a living. And I, as a living being, apply all of me as a living being to that living that I happen to get paid for. I love to teach. I love to read. I love to research. I love to write. I love to engage. I love to challenge people. I love to make people think and make them laugh, and all the, right down the list of what I am. If you're interested, you can nail yourself down a little more specifically. It's always good to get definitions and defining yourself, understanding yourself, and move forward with greater precision and what's the word? Greater precision, and following a path that is tailored to you, greater precision and passion, I guess you could say, right? Then you probably want to take the Briggs-Myers test, or the Jung, J-U-N-G, Jung typology test. That's another thing I'll probably be going over at some point in these videos, right? And then that way you can define yourself. Me, I know I am an open-ended abstract thinker who likes to problem solve and solve the problems of the world, but have a tough time solving problems intimately, in personal relationships or family and whatnot. So that's me naturally. I understand that. It's not that you can't modify and adjust outside of your known character. And with the Briggs-Myers typology test, there's 16 different character types, personality types, I guess you would say. Character is a good word because it really defines your character, who you are, right? I'm an open-ended, meaning I'm creative-minded, open-ended, abstract thinker, creative-minded thinker, right? Who likes to problem solve, and that's where the teaching and writing books and writing programs in my earlier life, one of my earlier lives, comes into play. I like solving problems. I like puzzles. Not really, not those kind of puzzles. But I don't enjoy them. Not those puzzles per se, but puzzles or challenges in trying to decipher and decode problems, and decode them and find solutions, right? Decode them to find solutions. Anyways, work is a primary method used to express ourselves and fulfilling our obligation to support ourselves. True, or it should be. Through work, we contribute to the collective good of society and the evolution of man or humankind, right? Work is an essential part of our self-expression and self-preservation. So think about it. If you don't enjoy your work, if you don't really plan, your future and your path that you want to be on, that you need to be on in order to make money, to make your way, so that you're not a ward to the state, or that you're not always asking for family and friends and your government for handouts, right? You want to do, and that, everybody's been, had to get money from mom and dad, or occasionally you're unemployed, get it from the government. I don't think anybody enjoys that. Handouts, people would prefer to not be in debt, earn their way, stay in the black, stay out of the red. Anyways, that is that is a nice definition right there. Only through work can the idea and the spirit of thick-faced black heart take on a visible form. So this is it. It's only through the challenge, through the tension, through the friction of work, the challenges of work, of having to get things done, accomplish things, understand your job well and do that job well, and understand yourself well, and make sure that you can get yourself to do what you need to do on the job, to arrive on time, to work a little late one day probably, to work through lunch if need be, to stay late, to work 50, 60 hours a week, to go beyond what's asked of you to do, and so forth, right? That stuff. You have to do that stuff, know the self and work with the self, but you also have to work with others, right? Provide for yourself. There it is, yourself and others. Next section. As a young man passed through course. So now we're getting a little look at her developing. Here she goes into a particular section. It's different from the first section, but she uses an example or exemplification. Here she's developing her idea through evidence. I have an idea, I have a concept, I'm talking about work. Now let me show you in more detail, or prove to you what I'm talking, explain to you, show you what I'm talking about by providing evidence. In this case, evidence is a little story, little anecdote, right? At the bottom there, she says, I salute all the world's entrepreneurs because they risk everything in their pursuits. And that's basically who she's writing to, because she, when she was alive, was an entrepreneur, right? So, but again, this was not the original thick black theory was certainly not, it was developed in ancient China. So it wasn't just about for entrepreneurs, but since she's in that field, she is applying it to entrepreneurs, right? More specifically. She's written other books. I don't know. I assume those other books some of them might be more specific to business field or entrepreneurship, sales, and so forth, right? But I think this is more for general readership, because many of my clients and students have enjoyed it and have been able to tap into it and use these ideas and concepts and techniques to move forward along their path to potential hopeful career success, right? Additionally, they're able to provide for themselves while creating jobs for others. That's good. And I often tell students, clients, that the thing that you want to do and focus on is not so much you. You're really, it's not about you when it comes to your job and your career. It's really about helping others. That's how you get paid. If you're answering phones, if you're waiting on people in a restaurant, if you're designing programs, if you're a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, all of those things, you're doing something, building something, right? Designing something, fixing something, right? To help people, to help them fly through the air, to keep them alive, whatever it may be, right? Keep them out of jail, lawyers, right? So that we are all providing a service, and that's what work is. And if you think about work in that way, that's the essential way to think about work, is providing a service. What can I do to maximize my potential to help other people? So one of the things that I thought I would do is try to learn about as much of the various disciplines that are out there as possible. So I started reading books in science and math, in theology, in philosophy, in ethics, in law, constitution, law of the land. What else did I read? Economics. All of these fields, probably a dozen, at least 10, maybe a dozen different fields or disciplines. And I really, at first it was just curiosity. Why do these fields exist? Right. And I started to understand why science exists and why math exists, and theology and ethics and so forth. There's a reason why those fields came about, right? And I started to learn about this, so for me, initially it was just about curiosity, right? Just like Dr. Nash, you saw The Beautiful Mind. Dr. Nash was a theoretical game mathematician. Is that the proper term? I don't know. He was focusing on outcomes of games. Are they really random? Can you figure out outcomes and so forth? So he came up with a theory, a provable theory, and it worked. And it seems kind of odd, why would I want to know the outcomes of potential outcomes of a game of chess or checkers or cards or something, game theory outcomes, but and I don't know, I would have to read more on it if there was an answer there. I don't know, but what you find out if you watch the movie, and in real life, of course, I haven't, his theory began to be applied to other fields, the field of economics, I think, and maybe psychology and other fields. I may be wrong on one of those, but you get the idea, right? So many who were looking for solutions found one through this individual who happened to just kind of be following his gut instinct, right? So my gut instinct here was to just learn about all this stuff and read about it. And it was mostly out of curiosity and interest. Why do these disciplines, these fields exist? And then I started to understand. I also started to understand, swimming in those fields a bit. I read several books on mathematics, and I found out that an interesting thing is that there's allegedly a limitless number of possible maths out there. There's only a handful of maths or mathematical systems that are used, but they were developed for a purpose. There was a need, and then the maths were developed, right? Not enough needs have come along to develop other maths, and what we have now, I guess, is good enough for most of what we need. And again, I'm no expert, so I'm just kind of summarizing it in layman's terms or in layman's way. But potentially, there's allegedly a limitless number of possible mathematical systems out there, and math itself is somewhat systematic and closed systems somewhat, but at the same time, there's always openings. It's like science. Like Stephen Hawking says, one of the reasons why I love science is it's so open-ended. We'll always be discovering something. Discovery is endless. So for these scientists, especially these theorists, that's like a candy store to a kid, having all those possibilities out there, right? So I started to read about this, but then after I got into and understood some of the details and concepts, and I've applied them to talk to professors in those fields that I learned about, and started mentioning some of the things I know, and they go, "Yeah, that's right, that's right, that's right," to confirm that, I'm not nuts and that I understood, so that's how you test yourself. Here's a question, here's an answer, or here's the answer. What's the question? I was kind of doing that too. So, I did it out of my own self-interest and curiosity. But then after a while, I realized that all that knowledge really, really, really came into play when I was trying to make a point or educate someone. It really developed or opened and expanded my palette, like a painter's palette with all those colors. My colors were very limited at the beginning, but now I have multiple colors and shades in which to paint, to paint a solution or to convey a point, right? So anyways, so it is kind of a spiritual unfoldment. I can tell you from personal experience, because sometimes when I'm teaching or sometimes when I'm learning, I get this cathartic feeling. It's like, whoa, it's almost like a spiritual high. It's like, oh, Jesus, that type of thing, right? And I could feel it. It's very cathartic. You start to feel like a warm glow in your chest. It's really hard to explain. And it's a similar thing I used to get when I was writing poetry. I think it's when you really express yourself or really touch something deeper in you and deeper in others. I think that's the cathartic thing that's happening, like a deeper understanding when I'm learning something. Oh, whoa, that's deep. That is major, significant with a capital S, capital S, significant, right? Anyways, spiritual unfoldment. There is no division between your daily work and your spiritual unfoldment. Should be. This is potentially, right? This is where you should be. Greatest potential, potentially. Every situation will accelerate your spiritual evolution. Your work is where your spiritual unfoldment takes place. Through work, we encounter people and events that mirror our spiritual state. Through work, people and events either irritate us or uplift us. True. And that's the friction, right, that I was talking about. Whether it be irritation or inspiration, the universal intention is to utilize that particular situation to teach us a beneficial lesson. And I'm reading this, I'm going, man, that was my life. Once I started following the path that I knew I needed to follow, like Dharma, chapters 3 and 4. That's all it's about. Once I started following the path that I knew I needed to follow for me, right? And that's not selfish, that's self-interest or self-fulfilling, right? And you do want to maximize your potential, build yourself up, because if you're not good for you, you're not good for anybody else, right? Build yourself up, build your strength, build your skills, build your knowledge, build your attitudes, right? All essential stuff, right? Nothing in life happens by accident, unless it's an accident. Well, there's an absolute, and when people say that, I have to go, not really. So I woke up this morning and I chose cornflakes over Cheerios. Yes, that's going to have a significant effect on your life, maybe coming later in the day or early next morning when I hit the restroom. But aside from that, it doesn't matter. I put strawberries. I wanted strawberries. I didn't have them, and I put blueberries. So because I was not able to put strawberries on there, the repercussions are going to be dramatic and important and of merit. Probably not. If people and events in your life stir strong emotions, it signals the need to take a good look at yourself. So I think she's talking nothing in life. Here she's talking about, and I'm being facetious or silly, but nevertheless, I'm following through on, looking at that statement incomplete, as a good critical thinker should. What she's talking about is nothing of significance, right? But people always love to abbreviate. It comes across more dynamic and emphatic. Nothing in life happens by accident. Nothing that is essential to one's work life or work experience and growth happens by accident. See, if you get too specific, then it gets all watered down. And so we like stuff that's, right, hits hard to the point. Greatest teacher is work. The purpose of labor is to learn. When you know it, the labor is over. The apple blossom exists to create fruit. When that comes, the petals fall. True. There's a woman I know who is a entrepreneur. She built and sold 9 businesses, and then after a while, she says, "You know, I want to do something else." So now, well, last time I talked to her, it's been a few years. Now she does seminars, webinars, online stuff, offline stuff to help other women build businesses, right? So there you go, right? So once it's built, the purpose of the labor is to learn. When you know it, the labor is over, right? So it's the process. It's not the end result, right? So for her, it wasn't so much about building the business, making money and selling it. It was the whole process. And she enjoyed the process so much, she did it again and again and again. If she was really just interested in money, she probably might want to have just stayed with one of the most profitable of the 9 and just, work it to the end of time, but that's not her, right? Now she goes into an explanation each time I write a book. So she's giving you more exemplification. Work does not need you. You need the work. Oh, yes. This reminds me of The Universe is a Green Dragon, written by a physicist, Dr. Swimme, S-W-I-M-M-E. Someday I'm going to have to put all these sources together. Dr. Swim's S-W. The universe is a green dragon. And you know what he said in there? The universe doesn't need us, but we need the universe, right? God created this universe for us. The universe does not need us, but we need the universe. That's the exact same. I don't know who said that first, or if they said them in tandem or separately, right? But here's a businesswoman saying the same thing as a physicist. So this is something I found in reading all of these books and all of these categories and all these disciplines or genres, categories, right? Is that if it's a good idea, it's more than likely that that idea is going to appear time and again and over a great period of time, right? And I've seen this point borne out time and time and time again. Similarly, the work we do does not need us, but we need the work too. Nobody needs another book. Nobody needs another lawyer. Maybe we need another doctor. I don't know. Or an engineer. We don't need another writer, another actor, another television show. Good Lord, no, thank you. Right. If any one of us disappears from a planet, the planet will continue to exist. If our planet disappears from the galaxy will continue to exist. Galaxy disappears from the universe. I don't know about that. I don't know. Do entire galaxies? I know planets, stars implode. They become black holes. Planets cease to exist for various reasons. And then she goes into more demonstration, developing that idea, that concept, that point. Work. Through work, destiny unfolds. Your work is to discover your work, and then with all your heart, give yourself to it. That is the basic concept, right? That's hard. And I didn't know anything about that. People just said, like my dad said, you're good with math. You have a good logical mind. Why don't you go into programming? So I went into programming. I did that for about 6 years, and by the end, I hated it. It was time to get out. That was over. That had run its course, right? So you can't just get into something through other suggestions. There's another book, Dr. Deci, right? D-E-C-I. Why We Do What We Do, right? And in that book, he talks about the fact that the people who are most happy and content and fulfilled are the ones who are really working with their inner self. What are the basic core talents, gifts, abilities, stuff in here that we were born with, that we know if we don't use, we'll become sad, we'll become unfulfilled, we won't reach our max, it might become disgruntled and end up being angry or hurting people and other things, right? So you do want to work towards your fulfillment, right? And it took me many years, but nobody was helping me. I just kind of stumbled and fumbled along. Then I kind of banged off of things, banged off that. And then I finally got just oriented in the proper direction by my late 20s. But that's without any help, any books, anything really, just kind of bumping around and eventually ending up saying, well, you know what, I got to do something that I like to do, right? And that was the writing and the comedy, right? And ever since then, it's been the coaching, teaching, learning, writing, speaking, entertaining, whatever. right? Life evolves through action. So this is about this thick-faced black card. I said it's not just a stagnant theoretical concept. It's not just something to be read and then you sit there with your friends in a book club and talk about it. It's to be learned and used, right? And it's about action, or as they say, to get stuff done when you're moving towards your moving through your career, trying to build a career, that it's about massive action, right? A lot of me when I was when I first went back to school, or even when I was doing the stand-up, I used to do that 5, 6, 7 nights a week, just all the time, totally focused, right? For 5, 6 years. Then when I started to move into the field of academia and then coaching, same thing there, or a similar thing there, right? I was working, I would wake up in the morning and just work on my writing and my teaching and my coaching and my planning for my coaching. I was doing that pretty much 24/7, 365, just year after year after year after year, right? So it's about getting stuff done. It's not, again, it's reading this stuff, learning about this stuff, going to lectures, being taught it, fine. But, ultimately, that's the tip of the iceberg to get you started, right? Get you off on a good foot, as James Brown would say, the good foot, right? And then the rest of it is like 90, as I tell my students. I'll do the tip of the iceberg stuff. I'll do maybe the 5, 10%. I'll narrow stuff down to particular categories, or take a whole bunch of information in a particular category and narrow it down like learning an essay. And I'll give you all the essential stuff, give you the 70, 80% that you need to know, the general essential stuff. And then I throw it at you and you do the work. And then as you're doing the work, sometimes you hit a snag and I'll help you through it. And I'll give you some other pointers and tips and things. But my job is about 10%. In order to learn how to write, or in order to learn how to live a proper life, how to get a job, keep a job, stay in that job or career, right? That's your job. I don't do it for you. Nobody's going to do it for you, right? If you know all the great knowledge, but you sit, there you go. Just saying this, right? Sit and do nothing, your knowledge will be worth nothing to yourself or others. And this is why I'm constantly sharing what I know, and not only what I know, but what I've done through that knowing, or applied that knowing to, right? Action. Even a philosopher needs to talk about his beliefs and write them down so others can benefit. Yeah, so for sure, right? The universe is ever changing and acts unceasingly. An individual is ever active, whether he or she is sleeping, eating, or just sitting. Even the motionless deep sleep state, his internal body is ever active, supporting his life as infants and so forth. So now she's explaining it in more detail, but I think you get the point, right? Embrace the farmer's virtue, right? Whenever work is mentioned, the idea of procrastination and inertia arise instantaneously. There are many, many motivational books and tapes on the market. The objective of these books is to move people from non-action to action, and eventually from action to effective action, right? Procrastination, oftentimes people think about, I like that quote there. I'm going to pause. We gain freedom when we have paid the full price for our right to live. So yeah, you got to pay it down. You're not just going to get it handed to you, right? You got to earn it, pay the price, pay the full price, right? And once you pay the full price, you're free. And I found that in my life, right? I had to pay the full price and work a long, long, long time to free myself, not just financially, but emotionally, intellectually, spiritually, relationship-wise, and so forth, right? Work-wise and whatever. But anyways, procrastination. This procrastination isn't necessarily doing nothing, but not doing the thing that you should be doing, or that you think you should be doing, or that you signed up to do, but you shouldn't be doing, right? Like if you're in school, in college, and you're in a major you hate, and you keep finding yourself putting off the reading, putting off the homework, probably time to change it, right? Do something else. So procrastination is not so much about not doing something. It's more about an indicator that you're not doing what you should be doing. Most people are not lazy. They just don't have very demanding goals. And that means that they're not demanding of themselves. Demanding, meaning they're not tapping into their core, inner, hidden, unknown self, I guess. Maybe they haven't tapped into it or really know what it is, right? Or they're afraid, or they're lazy, or whatever, right? but you got to get in there. You got to get inside. You got to really take a deep, deep look. You got to take an honest look. Look in the mirror. It's like looking in the mirror, right? Talk to yourself. Who are you, Jeff Brown? What do you really want to do? What do you like doing? What scares you? You know, what doesn't scare you? Man? I've done that. Talk to yourself in the mirror. It's really kind of weird, but if you're looking at yourself, it's hard to lie. I think we have easier time lying to people than we do to ourselves. You know, how can you lie to yourself? You're talking to yourself. It's you. You know? So it's not like you're going to hide something from yourself. Oh, wait a minute, that's a lie. How'd you do that? Working secret of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, my faith in truth, my vision of the perfect, help thee, master in the creation. So here's another extended example of work and attributes of work, or an attribute of work through an example. In this case, Amadeus Mozart. Guy was pretty amazing. I've listened to much of his music and learned about him and Beethoven. He was quite different from Beethoven. Mozart pretty much just stream of consciousness that would just come to him. Pieces, he would write them almost like complete. Kind of like Stephen King, right? Dark Tower series, I think it was 3 books to begin with. I'm no Stephen King fan. But he had not just one book, but several books in his head. That's kind of like Mozart. Beethoven wasn't there. He had to bang it out, rewrite it, bang it out, rewrite it, bang it. So we all have different ways of doing things, right? We're unique in that sense, right? But anyways, another example of an attribute of work or working, right? Using intuition as a business tool, right? Definition of intuition, according to the dictionary, is direct perception of truth, facts, etc., independently of any reasoning process. That's what Einstein was talking about. Pure, untaught, non-inferential knowledge. It's a leap of logic, right? It's a leap over logic. It's an ignoring of logic, right? Einstein says intuition is everything, because you can read all the books that you want to read and spend your lifetime sitting there 15, 20 hours a day even, and you're not going to do anything. You're just going to be a repository for knowledge. You're not applying knowledge. So Einstein, many people, I've heard this said, again, good ideas are good ideas. So I've heard people say this in field of science, mathematics, also business and law, other areas, right? So it's about doing. And Einstein knew that he would never be able to learn enough. So he had to go with something, a powerful tool that would jump over knowledge and tap into, tap into the universe, the divine, the inner self, the inner knowing, whatever that source is of where intuition comes from, or dharma, right? The gut instinct, right? That type of thing. And other people talk about that. Stephen Jobs talked about that. At some point, you just got to go with your gut, right? So Einstein said that, and he lived on that, right? And him coming up with the theory of relativity, nobody knew what the hell he was talking about. Nobody ever even talked about that, right? And then nobody could understand his math for the longest time, because according to mathematicians, the math speaks to the mathematician, right? You feel me? You follow me, right? So I don't know how, don't ask me how the particulars of exactly how that works. I don't know. But they're computating, and all of a sudden numbers pop up, and a particular solution, elegant solution, comes forth, and they realize, oh, I got to follow that, and it's saying go here, and they go there, right? And that's what Einstein did. He just followed his intuition and came up with the theory of relativity, right? Intuition can be applied in many fields in many ways. Work in the light of grace, our Maker's grace, the condition of being in his favor. Now, if you're not a religious person, skip over that. Discover your natural rhythm with our Creator's infinite imagination. Again, you don't need to say creator, divine. You can say the universe, right? The world never ceases to provide us with wonders. Each one of us is unique. There you go. I talked about that. We're snowflakes, not in the liberal sense, but snowflakes in that we're all different. Sure, there's 16 personality types, and there's certainly overlap. There's not billions and billions of personality types, just 16. But there's like connecting subsets. We overlap in many ways, but also there's enough about us, each one of us, that makes us unique from all the others. Like allegedly, and I've never looked at all the snowflakes. I don't know. Again, I'm taking it verbatim, and I don't even know how people who study this stuff know. If you looked at all the snowflakes, they're all different, never matching, I don't know. But anyways, allegedly, we'll just use it as an example. Say it's true, right? So we're all unique, even though we're overlapping with other people in our characters and our likes, our dislikes, our desires, our wants and needs, and blah blah blah. Overall, each of us has enough in us that's unique to make us different from others. Enough of a differentiating factor or factors to make us different from others, right? And that's something to keep in mind, especially when you're on the internet. And somebody doesn't think exactly like you. Hey, let's make fun of this person because they're not thinking like us or the group or majority or something. That's bully mentality. That's ignorant. That's childish. It's just gross. Get off the internet if you're doing that type of thinking, please. Each one of us unique. Reach for your limitless limit. Kind of talked about that, right? A timber fit for pillars should not be misused for chopsticks. There you go, right? If you are capable, then stop selling yourself short by limiting your imagination. By the same token, if you're assigned an easy task and it's beneath your ability, then you're wasting your talent. And I think this is why people procrastinate. They're not maximizing their abilities. They're not tapping into really what they want to do, tapping into their strengths, I guess you could say, right? And that's not good. That's a sin. That's gonna hurt in the long run. That's the kind of stuff you lay in your deathbed and go, oof, I really didn't care about making more money or working more or acquiring more material items or money. I just wish I had been nicer to people or had tried to do this in life or that, whatever, right? So that type of thing. 3 P's of work: purpose, perseverance, patience. Patience is a virtue, right? Perseverance is huge, especially when you're trying to get a career going. It usually takes at least 3 to 5 years, 3 to 5 years to really see. Sometimes earlier, but 3 to 5 years, I say at least 3 years. We'll say at least 3 years doing something before you really know whether or not it's what you want to do or it's suited for you. Like, for instance, I worked in the computer field 5-6 years. About that. Comedy field, it's about the same, 5-6 years. It wasn't, that was not it. That was he was not it. He was not him. That was not him. I was not him. Whatever. I don't know the cool phrases these days. I've heard them, but I don't know that one. So, anyways, but then I got to teach when I my first time teaching on my first college campus. I felt like I was at home, and I was 35, 36 by the time, something like that, right? Finally, I felt this is it. So I need to be at home, talking with all these nerds, all these other professors. It was weird, I thought I would never. There's no place. I was like little Dorothy. There's no place like home. It took a long time. I was clicking my heels for maybe, I don't want to say 35 years, but maybe about 15 years, from 20 to 35 roughly, right? 15 years of clicking my heels. No place like home. I finally got to home. I mean, it was universities. Go figure. Anyways, let's wrap this up. Work, the highest worship and highest sacrifice. Again, gets a little too much into the maker. If you're not into the maker, then to skip over this. You don't have to read all this stuff through and through. The harmony of the divine will and the human will. I think you get the point there. So that is that. We'll be moving on. There it is. Oh, that was 9, right? The advantage of playing the fool. That is another one that I'm going to skip. How about that? I really don't find much merit in that. You might. If so, read it, enjoy it. I haven't read it. I don't use it. I'm not interested, so I can't really talk about it. Thriving among the cunning and ruthless. I think that's one I can talk about. So it looks like we'll do that one next time. Until then, take care.